Hola! All things happiness await you on this episode of Karishma Konnect as I speak to Nasreen Abdulla, happiness editor, Khaleej Times, your daily newspaper in the UAE. She tells me so much more about her life, and she's somebody who has been a media industry member, colleague, journalist turned friend, and these are some amazing connections I've made on ground. And it's so amazing to know Nasreen just because of the way she is. She's so down to earth, she's so knowledgeable, resourceful, and there's so much that she does and effortlessly. And I'm like, how did you just do that? And that's exactly what we're talking about in this episode. We talk about Jiu Jitsu, her RJ husband, who is the complete opposite of her, working as an introvert in an industry that demands you to be an extrovert, and what's special about it, and why it makes you a little different yet successful from the rest. What's in the industry for those who are looking to venture out in it, and a lot more. It started as a conversation when Nasreen said, I won't talk too much, and it ended in a conversation that lasted 2 Zoom calls. That is Karishma Konnect. Stay tuned for the next one, enjoy this one, and something's being revealed soon, so keep your guesses on very soon. Tada! If this link ends, just join with the same link.
Okay, cool. No, itna to I don't like to talk.
It's me, but it's me. Maybe you might like to talk. So thank you so much, Nasreen, for joining me on Karishma Connect this morning, this lovely Saturday morning. I don't know how formal I will be on this chat because honestly, I can't be very formal with you. But I'm excited to take people behind the scenes, behind the newspaper, behind everything that happens in the newsroom, but also behind your journey because I know how unique your journey has been so far. And I'm waiting for them to get to know you better. So thank you, firstly, for agreeing to do this.
The pleasure is all mine.
Let's get started. Now,
Okay.
you have a title that I think is the best title in the world. I mean, how do you get a job which is called happiness editor and has happiness attached to it? How do you think the world needs more of these, and how do you feel about it, firstly?
So when I first interviewed for the job, it was a sheer coincidence how this job happened. But when I first interviewed, I had no clue it was for the happiness editor. I did the interview. I waited a long time for the offer letter to come. And when it came, it was only when I got the offer letter that I knew that this was my position. And I remember opening the email and just looking at it for a couple of minutes, like, huh? So I initially my reaction was a bit like, what? But then I was like, okay, that's cool, fine, I'll take it. But since I joined, I've realized that it is really a blessing because A, it is like an icebreaker wherever I go, wherever I give out my card. People are like, what?
Yeah.
Happiness editor? What do you do?
I think
So
it's
that's
probably the
always a
only one in the
conversation
world.
starter.
I think it's
Yeah, most likely when it was first started, it was the only one in the world. I don't know if anyone else has appointed a happiness editor since. I'm not very sure, but yes, in the region, it's the only one.
Yeah.
So I love the title. And people remember me because, yeah, you see journalists every day. You don't see happiness editors every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I get a lot of pictures and stories as well for happiness related stories. And the kind of stories I do are also very human interest kind of to keep in line with my designation.
And it must be lovely, to receive all these happy images, happy stories coming
Yes.
your way. I think it's a positivity of its own.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I feel I've been very lucky to find stories that are so beautiful, that are so, it just makes you smile. So I've been very incredibly lucky to find such stories as well.
And that's exactly where my next question takes you. That how did that joy of finding a story, that joy of that passion for storytelling, finding those people, getting to know them, where did it all begin? What's been your journey so far, and what's best about the place you are in currently?
So I think I decided at the age of 11 that I want to be a journalist. I used to write well, so somehow that just translated into being a journalist. But on the first day of my journalism class, my professor said, if you're a good creative writer, good for you. But if you want to be in my class, throw creativity out of the window. And I remember thinking, oh, because that was the whole thing my ambition was based on.
Yeah.
But as the course went by, I realized I quite enjoy journalism. Some of my friends, they switched to English creative writing, but I stayed. And I enjoyed my course, and I got my first job at Gulf News Broadcasting. At that time, Gulf News had a radio, and I got a job there. It just started off like as a normal audio journalist, but it's only when I started the job that I realized how much I needed to interact with people.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm a bit of an introvert. With my people, with the people I know, I'm very outgoing, very friendly, very loud. But the minute I see someone outside my comfort circle, I just shut up. So it was a huge, like, sort of learning curve for me.
Yeah.
You can't be like that as a journalist. So I remember, like, I'd have to speak to people about like certain issues. Like just random passerby kind of, when so on days when we had a slow news day, we would do something called a vox pop, where you take, different people's opinion. So I remember standing in the corner of a street for like hours because I was too scared to go and speak to people. But that's how I learned that, how to build up that thing and go and speak to people. Now I'm obviously much, much better at it. But even so, there are days when I just cannot do it. Like, I need to get people to talk, but I cannot go up, especially when I go to people and I ask them and people turn me down.
Yeah,
When a couple of that happens in quick succession, then, you're just like, oh, I can't do this anymore. But for me, telling stories is something I'm extremely passionate about. And even before, like after my first stint as a journalist, I took some time off because I had really young babies. And then I went into a little bit of, content writing, social media management. I did quite a number of different roles for 10 years before finally coming back. So it was quite a big break. But when I came back, I realized what I had been missing all this while. And in fact, it was my husband who pushed me to come back because he was like, you're not going to be truly happy unless you're doing this because this is what you're passionate about. And when I came back, it was like as if I'd never left. There were still so many stories to say. And like when I meet people, I'm genuinely curious about them. I want to know what they work as, what they do they have siblings, a lot of, like, even on a general basis, I like to know that about people. And that curiosity has helped me a lot in being a journalist. So yeah, I'm happy where I am.
I'm happy you are where you are. One of the better ones on ground, no doubt. And there are very few journalists who know the importance of sustaining relationships the way they have to be maintained, and you're one of them. And I think even me having tables turned and moved to PR, or also when I do Karishma Connect, the other side, I think even with that, I realized that there's so much that the industry can benefit just from having that kind of a relationship, And it's nice to know that there are some people who are doing that. And we definitely need more of those to kind of change the way this has operated so far.
Yes, absolutely. So I feel like, journalists and PR and advertising professionals, everyone needs to work together to have a wholesome media atmosphere. So I see on all these groups about journalists complaining, oh, this PR person called me at this time and I can't believe they did. And I'm just like, we need PR people as much as PR people need us journalists. It is a bridge. It is not, oh, we're superior and we just give the news that we want to know. For me, at least, when I've come back, there have been a couple of PR people who have really, including you're one of the very few who have really, really helped me a lot, because I had come back to the industry after a 10-year break. There were a lot of things that had changed. And for me, to a large extent, it was the PR people who helped me get back into the groove. They are the ones who still, call me and tell me stories. And there's a relationship that I've built with many of them, without which I can't be a journalist.
The same introvert is a good actor, and then the same introvert is also into sports. So tell me something about that side of your personality.
Okay, yeah. So sport, I was the kind of person who, like, if I went a straight path, I needed to go a straight path to get somewhere, and there was a gym in the way, I would take a roundabout path so that I don't have to pass through it. I hated all forms of physical activity.
Oh my God.
When I was a teenager, my mom and dad used to take me on a morning walk. I used to sit on the sidewalk and, like just falling asleep while my parents finished their walk and came back. That's how much I detested physical activity.
I can't believe it.
My husband asked me, did you like fall headfirst into something?
Yeah,
So I have no way of explaining what happened, but I've been blessed with a good group of friends. So one of them, or she was at that time living right next to me. She wanted a personal trainer to exercise. So she said, can you please come? Then, we can do a group training session. And I said, okay. Just because, I really like her, I wanted to help her. And I went and I did a session. So after the first session, I remember when I was going down the stairs, it would be like, oh, 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 oh. You know how in the Friends, that scene, how Chandler does? That was me, like every bit of my body hurt. And then we did a couple of sessions, and then that trainer could not come back because she had some issues. So we stopped. But that was a small spark that had been lit. And then another friend of mine, she started a sportswear for hijabis.
Okay.
And for me, like, gym clothing was a big issue. And when this happened, it gave me a lot of confidence to go into the gym and do stuff. So, and she also asked me, she set up a running group, like, to promote the brand and to get a community together. So I started meeting more like-minded people. I started exercising more. And at that time, I got a job. So I was doing like gym sessions with them regularly. And then I got a job. So I couldn't go back to the gym sessions. But in my building, I think it was just meant to happen. In my building, there was a gym.
Oh,
And I could, during my lunch break, I could go there.
lovely.
So that's how my workout, thing started. It was an expensive gym, but I knew that I was like, investing in it, because I wouldn't have gone to a gym otherwise.
Yeah.
So I took a personal trainer and I religiously worked out for the 3.5 years I was there. And just before COVID happened, my trainer, she was again, like one of those people with whom you just have a relationship. She was telling me, oh, you know what? You should think about becoming a personal trainer. And I started laughing. And then I was like, oh, she's not joking. So it was, she was like, I'm not joking. She was also someone who had come from a media background. She's an Egyptian. She had come from Egypt. And here, like, she had young kids, so she didn't want to get back into the media scene. So she became a personal trainer and she worked there. She was like, you have such good form, you know your exercises, you know your muscles, so you should do it. And then COVID happened. And during COVID, I found a place where you could do the personal trainer course online.
Okay.
So I just said, okay, let's do this. So I did it. And then after the lockdown was lifted, we did some of our theory lessons. So I became a personal trainer. I also specialized in workouts for older adults, so people who are 50 plus. And I also did a course which specialized in pre and postnatal women.
Okay.
And especially the older adults course, that completely changed my attitude towards fitness. Earlier, it was just something that I used to enjoy doing. But then it became, I realized, so this is something us Indians, we don't really understand. But as you grow older, fitness is the only way you can improve the quality of your life. And that course was really like an eye-opener for me. So, for example, one of the things they said was, like, especially when you're getting older, strength training, lifting weights becomes extremely important. And if you're a menopausal woman, the only way to strengthen your bones is by lifting weights. So in a lot of ways, that was like quite an, it marked a shift in my fitness journey. And I started to realize how important it was, like, the various factors. Like, there are not just lifting weights, not just cardio, but there are, for example, balance exercises, single legged exercises. And these are things that improve your balance. So older people, at least, all the older people I know have suffered from a fall at some point in their life. And that happens as a direct result of the, so as you grow older, your balance and your, sense of, centeredness, everything goes off. Which is why falls happen. And there are, for a lot of elderly people, the quality of their life goes down because of a fall. Like, for example, my grandmother, she fell and she literally never recovered from it. She was too scared to walk after that. Then she became bedridden. She was bedridden for almost 9 years. It just went from bad to worse just because of that one fall. And all that could have been avoided if there had been sustained exercise program. So that was quite an eye-opener for me. So then I became very, religious with my exercise, and I was lifting about 70 kg deadlifts. I was quite healthy at that time. And then my kids, they learn Taekwondo, which is a martial art. So it's just close by, and they could go even if I couldn't drop them. That's one of the reasons why they enrolled in that. Because I don't mean to brag, but we as parents, we're terrible. We have enrolled them in so many classes. But, again, my husband is also into media, so we have really haphazard hours. Then we'd end up forgetting to drop them, or then we'd end up busy, and then the class would just fizzle out. So when we found something that was close by and we have a help at home, she can just walk and take them there. And now they just go on their own. So when we found something that we're like, okay, let's do this so that we feel better about ourselves as parents. And even if we're not, they can still go on their own. So there was this, this place was really nice. And they said, oh, we are starting classes for a martial art called Jiu Jitsu. It's really fun. You should come. I was like, okay. Until I entered the class, I'd never heard of Jiu Jitsu. I never knew what it was. I just assumed it was something like karate or taekwondo, where you stand in a place and you do, stuff. Turns out it's a full-on contact sport
Oh my God.
where you grapple and you actually choke people, you submit them. And the first class was like, okay, when you do this, you can take down this person, and then you do this, and then this is how you can break his ankle.
Oh my God.
And what?
Violent.
And I am a very, very non-violent person.
Exactly. I'm
I
trying to imagine you do this.
I don't even like to hurt someone, even by mistake. If I bump into them, I'll tell them sorry 100 times. I'm that kind of a person. And I'm not really happy with people touching me either. Like, I like to, stay away kind of. And I'm always scared of getting hurt. That was me. Like, I wouldn't try out new things because I was scared of getting hurt. And here I was doing a full contact sport where you win by choking and submitting people.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and the first time I went, like, I considered myself quite a, fit person.
Yeah.
But the first time I went, it was a 2-hour class. I came back and then I sat on the sofa for 3 hours because I couldn't move. I felt like a truck had hit me.
Oh my God.
So all that stamina that I had was nothing for Jiu-Jitsu. Because again, it's a full contact sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem was, these were people I would see every day. I couldn't quit. I had to keep going back.
What is your motivation? You've had very interesting motivations.
So I went back, and honestly, I hated it. The first 1 month, I hated every minute of it because I hated being touched. I hated fighting with people. And for example, there's this thing where you do this to, touch your finger to the hand. I wouldn't even do that because I was scared of hurting myself. I'm a very, you'll get hurt kind of person.
Can't believe it.
And then, so I really hated it. But then after 1 month, from one class a week, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoy this. Maybe I should do 2 classes a week. It went to that. Now I do Jiu-Jitsu at least 3 to 4 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was probably the most interesting journey I've had in my life.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes. So later on, I came to know that Jiu-Jitsu has been championed by the UAE government. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and all his sons are all black belts in Jiu-Jitsu. So they started to promote Jiu-Jitsu as an UAE national sport. It's being taught in schools all over the UAE, the public schools. Even our next astronaut, Sultan Al Nayadi, in his latest interview, he has said that one of the things he will take to space is his uniform, his gi, because he loves to do Jiu-Jitsu. So I realized that UAE was becoming like the center for Jiu-Jitsu. So I found a lot of support. I found a lot of good teachers, good, people who made the journey worthwhile. So here I am, 1.5 years into the journey, still going strong.
And how does the journey tie back to, like, what have you taken on a personal level? Of course, there's that physical aspect of it, which is intense and everything. But how did that influence your personality as a whole? You've partly answered that question when you say that it's so intense and it's so different from who you are. But have you seen that kind of link up to what you say do in a professional life, or is there a connection there?
I think it has made me calmer. I am someone who panics really quickly. But when you're in a fight, fights are like 3 to 5 minutes. So initially, when I was in a fight and when I was in a compromising position, like in a position where they could easily submit me, I used to panic. But over time, I've realized to stay calm, control my breathing, and to think what I can do from there. And that has really impacted me in my personal life as well. now when problems happen, like exactly like how I do it in Jiu Jitsu, I learn to take a deep breath and to look at it, see how I can tackle this and get through it. So it's been like quite a huge influence. I don't think even having 2 kids and 15 years of marriage didn't teach me that, but Jiu Jitsu did.
But while we're at the topic of physical activity, what is that one regime that you think everybody needs to explore that should be like a part of your essential daily fitness routine?
Deadlift, definitely, because it is a very wholesome exercise, and it actually, so when you do a gym routine, the one thing that especially my trainer, she taught me was you should do compound movements that translate into your daily life activities, like even squatting and picking something up. That is something that's a skill you need for life, to pick up heavy things and not injure your back while doing it. So even deadlift, it's literally like putting on your pants, bend down, pick up something. But it works your entire posterior chain, and it teaches you skills on how to lift something heavy. And it's a lot of skills together. So deadlift is something not every day, but once a week, people have to be doing it. I like those who go to the gym, they should be doing it. And also squat, weighted squats. Again, that is something that you need in your day-to-day life very, very, very regularly. So those are the 2 things which I say people must do. And then, of course, like I said, the balance exercise, the single-legged exercises. Those are something which a lot of people don't do, because it doesn't usually come in a in a gym routine. Gym is usually, biceps, triceps, those kind of things. But the single legged is extremely important to build your balance. So I recommend that to everyone.
If you have like a writer's block and words aren't easy to come up with, I say this because I'm a writer too, but the world doesn't often think that it's that difficult to come up with words.
Yes.
How do you deal with it?
There are days when I just cannot write, but I have to. That is my job, and I cannot afford to have a writer's block. There are days when I'm just like, oh my God, what is wrong? Why are my words not flowing? But I just get the words onto the screen, because again, I used to be a creative writer. I still am, but when I get the time. But one of the things that, one of my coaches had said is, it's easier to edit something that's on the screen than writing it. So no matter how much you don't feel like writing, just put the words on the screen, and then you can think about how to write it properly later. And then also I have, touch wood, I have a really amazing boss. His name is Saheem. He's our associate editor. And yes. So I mean, he has been godsend. Sometimes, yes, my articles sound like really crappy, but he understands that. And there are days, most of the time, we always give our stories to each other to just read through, so that we have a fresh set of eyes looking at it. So on the days when I'm struggling, I'll get either one of my colleagues or Saheem to just read through it. And sometimes they make changes, sometimes they'll tell me to add some things, but also quite a lot of times I've realized that stories that when I write and I read and I think, okay, they're like, oh, this is really well written. And I'm like, okay.
Because it's through somebody else's eyes. I think that helps a lot.
Exactly. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I've written in a very very simple way, like it doesn't qualify as great literature writing, but most of the times that's what people want. simple writing. They just need to know the story. You don't have to write it in a very creative way. Just telling the story is enough. Yeah, but I'm quite hard on myself. Some days I'm like, what an ugly story. But actually, it's actually quite okay story.
What are the couple of things that anybody needs to know who's aspiring to be a journalist today? And I know the first of all, the field has evolved. So from that perspective, also my question comes that how is it different today, and what do they need to know about it before they even think, okay, this is what I want to do?
Okay. First of all, I think you need to have a passion for telling stories and a nose for news. Like, sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times, news comes from the most mundane sources. Like, my friend complains about, this charge has gone up, and that's the news.
Yeah.
It comes, so you need to have that nose for news to find it from around you. Then you need to have a passion for telling that story. You need to, because let's face it, journalism is the least paid job in the world. And that is true irrespective of where you are in the chain, where you are in the world. It is one of the least paid jobs. Without the passion for it, you're not going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You really need to want to tell these stories, to find these stories and bring it to people. And now, especially, you need to think visually. Because especially since the, prolific social media use, people are used to a scrolling culture.
Yeah.
And no one is going to sit and read your whole story.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to tell it in such a way that you catch people's attention. You have like 2 or 3 seconds of people's attention.
Yeah.
If you don't catch it within that, they're gone. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
So you need to think visually, and you need to tell the story in such a way that people will keep reading. Like, we have our stats. I don't know if people realize this, but in our like statistics, we can see how long people have read a story. We can see from which paragraph they exit. We can see so we can see very detailed analysis of how people use our website. And we are talking about 1.92 million hits a day. And each we get a top 10 stories. Like, we know what stories work, what stories didn't work, and for each story, which area of the world it was more read in, where it was read, and so on. So I think for me, the most successful story I've had so far, I think the engagement was 20 seconds. A typical engagement is about 5 to 8 seconds. Or 10 if it's a good story, 10, 12. High end is 20, 30 seconds. So just imagine, I spend at least an hour writing a story.
Yeah.
People read it for the best of my stories have been read for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. It's a reality today.
Yeah. So that is, you can't do anything about it. That's the reality. You just need to find ways to get people to read further. And that you can just do if you think visually. You need to have the right kind of photos. You need to have the right kind of media to tell that story. Because now it's not just about putting it on a website or putting it on the paper. So for me, one of the issue when I came back was I have read Khaleej Times for all my life. And my parents have instilled in me a thing to read the newspaper every day. So even when I was not a journalist, it's something I've done all my life. So I think in a very print way, because I consume my news through the print version. But it's all digital now for us as a company as well. The focus is digital. So to switch the thinking, like I would say, oh, this we can put it as a box item. And Saheem would tell me, stop thinking print, think digital, think digital. So
Yeah.
that was something that, took getting used to.
Mm.
And also the fact that we need stuff for social media as well, because, it's posted as an Instagram story as well. So those are the things that you need to think of. And most important, make and build relationships.
Yeah.
Without your relationships, without your contacts, you're nothing as a journalist.
Very true. Very true. As a media person, I think, and overall, this
Yes.
industry is built. I remember a client once told me, she said, Karishma, it's so essential in your industry to have relationships. This is built on relationships.
Yes.
That's the most impactful. And also, I think with the world of digital coming over, it's no longer about me being a journalist, you being, or vice versa. It's become more about because we are all working through the same parameters, right? I mean, if your story, and it's no longer, I think, even back at the desk, I remember it's no longer about writing the content that you're writing. It's first of all, it's become all about content. And then
Yes.
it's not about writing the content that you're writing. You're also thinking, okay, how many keywords is this going to, work out with? Then you need to
Yes.
also get in that knowledge. Am I putting the
Yeah.
right alt text there? Which is something you would not think of. Caption, you would never think, okay, this website, if it doesn't load, should... it's just like, what am I doing? Like, I
Yes.
need to know
Yeah.
things to,
Absolutely. So this is again something that I'm quite bad at this, okay? And we have an amazing web team,
Yeah.
which is headed by someone called Karen. So actually, Karen and I, we were classmates in school,
Okay.
from 7th standard till about 10th or 11th.
Yeah.
And actually, she is the reason why I came back to Khaleej Times. She's the one who first asked me, do you want to come back? Blah, blah. So she heads the web team, and they are just amazing. Like, I'm so bad at headlines, like so bad. Saheem and Karen have literally sat like this looking at my headline because such a good story, but such a lame headline. And they're like, no, you need to change it. And still, my headlines are really bad. Usually it's Karen or the web team. There are a bunch of girls, Kirsten, Meher, Suprita, Anjali, all of them. They just understand. They know what to bring up, what to change around. And I think a big, like, sort of credit they needs to go to them. They don't get bylines, but they fix the copy in such a way that people actually read it. So yeah, I'm very lucky I have a team like that.
But I like how you unabashedly say that, I'm still learning and I'm still growing with the people around me, because I've seen what happens more often than not is that when your writing kind of gets criticized, or if there's even like a passing comment, it becomes a very personal subject. It's not easy to take it. But at the same time, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my experience, I feel like it's not like a math solution that you will get right. It's something that every time there will be an opinion on, and it just constantly, no matter whether you've been in the industry for 1 year or 50 years or 20 years, wherever you are, it's something you will always have opinions coming your way.
Yes, absolutely. Opinions. I've even got hate mails about, like, oh, how can you do this story? Or, people say, but that's all part and parcel of the thing. I think with every story, you learn more.
Yeah.
And also there are some stories which you don't even realize how well it'll do. Like, I think so far one of my most successful stories was about this guy who drove from Dubai to France. And so he actually messaged me on LinkedIn and said, I did this. I'm not sure if that's a news. And I was like, that's not bad. So I checked with Saheem. He's like, yeah, that sounds good. So when I did the story, it was a really interesting story. Because for me, that story was everything what Dubai was. This guy, he drove from Dubai to France, and in all the places that he stayed, he
Yeah.
stayed with people he had met in Dubai. So
Oh.
Dubai's multiculturalism. So
Yeah.
when he went to Lebanon, he stayed in this
Lovely.
friend's house. So, you know, in each place, he was helped by these people.
Yeah.
So it was such a wholesome story.
Yeah.
And then we have an art person. We sat down, we created a map out of it, like the way it went. And that story had, I think that is my highest engagement story. It had about some 35 seconds, 40 seconds of engagement, which meant like quite a large number of people read the whole story through.
Yeah.
And when I started, I had no clue that this was going to do well. And people are going to find it so interesting that they were going to read the whole story. That almost never happens, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult today. It's a
Yeah.
privilege to have that. It's a privilege.
Exactly.
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
That's yeah, it's true. It's very it's also about chancing on these wonderful. It's about just taking that chance, and that's what I
Exactly.
like about the process because it's so
Yeah.
organic, you know.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned the web team. Tell me, you know, this can come from your input or their input. Tell me the 3 highly abused words in a headline today as a digital. Your the most common. Mine is, I'll tell you, mine is all set, and I am often pointed out at work for this because everything is all set. So every time I write something, my boss goes like, "There's the famous all set."
Abused. See, I mean, I don't know because they're the ones who know. I bet when I write a headline, I am always thinking, oh, they're going to sit and laugh about this because my headline writing is terrible. And when they use a headline I've given, I feel like, yay!
Achievement.
That has happened probably a handful of times. Okay, today, today it happened, and I got up and I was like, yes.
आज कुछ कर लिया.
But like, I know some things that work. Like quite often, like the word viral
Yeah.
in a headline automatically means people will actually click on it.
Yeah.
And also, you know, when there is like watch, spotted, seen, you know, those kind of things that also works quite a lot. Yeah. Revealed.
Yeah.
People are so sensational. Like, you don't want to sensationalize your work, but if you don't, they don't read it. Like, what to do?
And my last question to you, feel free to, I think you can answer this. You've spoken about him, but tell me, you have a completely contrasting husband now who talks every second of his life and earns out of it. So I'm telling you, how is that dynamic? I'm going to take it to the lighthearted spirit here now. How does that dynamic work? Does it ever get too much to have somebody who talks so much around you?
Okay, so I always tell this to people. If you, now that you know I'm not young and stupid and I have, you know, a little bit more maturity, if you had asked about me and my husband when we were getting together when we were young, I would have said we are a couple that will not work. Because on paper, we absolutely do not work. Literally, we have zero common interests. Him as a person and me as a person, we are literally poles apart. Like I said, I'm a very introverted person, whereas he, like when we're in the lift the other day, a 75-year-old man gets in and he's like, "Hi sir, how's your girlfriend?" And I'm like, A, why do you know this person? B, why do you know he has a girlfriend? C, what is the attitude what his girlfriend is doing? But he knows every other person in the building. He knows their life story. He knows their dog's name. I'm like, how do you have the time to know these people? And how do you remember it? I don't remember. Like, sometimes I even forget the years my kids were born in. And I was like, and
Wow,
here he
that's a
is, he
first for a
remembers everything.
mother.
So, and even the kind of stuff that we watch is so different. We rarely sit and watch TV together. Even when we do, it's either I compromise or he compromises, but I don't think there's been a series which we have found a common ground. Probably, I think Crash Landing on You, the Korean series, that is one which we both enjoyed. But otherwise, he likes, science fiction, action movies. And I hate action movies. I like, something very like, either murder mystery or, romantic series, those kind of things. So we are completely different. He talks for a living. He's a radio jockey. I don't have any answer how we work, but we work. I guess it is important to have similar priorities.
Yeah.
Like our priorities in life, family first, kids, our parents, that works, it matches, and we complement and support each other in whatever comes our way. And also, like I earlier said, I'm someone who panics a lot, whereas he is just like, okay, this is the problem, we're going to get this sorted. So he is like my rock. So that also has been like a huge, like fact that we gel in. I know that I always say, no matter which part of the world and how deep in trouble I am, he'll be my first phone call, because he won't panic. He'll be like, okay, we're going to sort this. First, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And that's been quite a like calming presence in my life. So yeah, alhamdulillah, 15 years, counting. Although some days I'm just like, he's a very like he likes to joke around a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm really angry and he makes a joke and I'm like, I don't know how you're staying alive.
That's what it is. I feel like this conversation is so wholesome, which I expected it to be. I told you it'll go beyond the 10 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever I've told you. But it's been so nice to do this. Thank you so much for joining me again and just sharing all this, because I feel like it's been a lovely conversation.
Yes, you made me think a lot. I mean, a lot of things which I had not thought about or spoken about, there's a lot of which came up. So thank you for having me.